My name is Alexander Sawley. I'm head of Global Solution Consulting at Avalock. That is a global remit covering all the jurisdictions that we operate in. We operate in a consultative approach using design thinking, human-centered design thinking, to understand our clients' problems and to help solve those problems. And really excited actually today to talk about AI because it's something that comes up quite a lot when speaking with clients. Not necessarily to talk about AI and what is AI strategy should be, but they talk about problems around data and engagement with their clients and how should they work in the future. And it's a really challenging space to think when you think about it, because artificial intelligence, at its very core, is simply a machine that replicates human behaviour. So just to catch up. There we go. So it's a machine that replicates human behaviour. And when we think about AI, some people think about things like Terminator and war games and Dave from Prometheus, things that are going to ultimately lead to our destruction. And that was an article I saw as well recently, that if we let AI go unchecked, it could lead that way. But we are an awful long way away from AI leading to our destruction. In fact, AI is all around us. The biggest companies in the world use AI to ensure that their experiences are relevant. Hyper-personalisation is something that was mentioned on the panel there before, making sure that what you do with your clients is relevant to your clients. And these names that are on the board here, they use AI, they use machines, and they use all that data that's out there. The data that you give them, you freely give them, your name, address, your salaries, your friends, your relationships, they use all that data to ensure what they show to you is relevant. So Facebook, for example, when you log into Facebook, it shows you news articles that are relevant to you, things that it knows you will engage with based on your behaviour, based on your likes, based on the things that you are interested in. Meta, as it's now called, obviously. Amazon, scarily accurate AI. It knows what you've done in the past. It knows kind of what you have been searching for. It knows information about your buying patterns, your salaries, etc. And it uses that to come up with things you might be interested in. So that's why when you think about products and services, and you log on to Facebook or you log on to Amazon, you get one of those little bars that go, you may be interested in this. It's scarily accurate what they can do with this data. And you think about Google. You think Google, you type in a Google search term and it just returns results. It doesn't just do that. It uses all of the data it has access to make sure that that is accurate for you, that the location that you're in, so it gives you information that's relevant to your context. It's fully relevant to you. And the panel before mentioned it as well. Actually, sorry, just quickly, Netflix is one of the prime examples of this. When you first log into Netflix, it knows nothing about you other than what you've already told it. But as you watch Netflix and you interact with it, the AI learns and then recommends products, videos, series that are relevant to you, that you would be interested in, people like yourself would be interested in. So it's all around us in everything we touch. It's in kind of digital onboarding for banks, facial recognition, that's AI. It's in mortgage and credit card applications. When you fill in the details, it takes what you put in, but it then also takes what you know and then returns whether you'll be accepted for a credit card or a loan. It's in the virtual assistants that when you log on to your likes of your banking applications and you go, send me a statement, send me what is my balance? It's all there. That is all natural language processing, AI machines, learning from what you're asking it, learning what other people have been asking it, and to return more relevant results, ensuring that you keep engaged with that product. I will cover a few, like I said, AI is everywhere, and I'm going to cover a few practical examples of how it can be used. The first thing I want to do is just talk about what you need to make AI work. So AI is, I think as was mentioned by the panel, it's data. It's first and foremost data, and it's large volumes of data that it churns through to give you insight. An AI is a brain, and it just needs that data to learn. Next, you need a platform on which to train that data. You need to be able to create those models. You need to be importantly, you need to be able to validate them to make sure they're doing what you expect it to do. You can't create an AI and let it run wild. You need to make sure that it does what you expect it to do. And then you need a platform or an experience through which to visualize this. AI on its own, going through all this data, coming to recommendations, if it's got no way of giving value to the customer, then what is the benefit of it? So you need some form of experience through which that the client you're trying to interact with can visualize this. And I think the important thing here, this links into some other technology trends as well, like microservices. You can then start embedding these AIs into your existing experiences. You don't need to create something brand new for a client. You can keep your existing experiences and embed an AI, a robot into that to visualize some of this stuff. And I'm going to talk through that in a little bit more detail. Okay. This, I think, is what the panel discussed in depth as well, which is really, really good, really, really reassuring. And this is what we discuss with our clients on a kind of continuous basis. These are the shifting trends in the marketplace. So what we have is shifting client expectations. Clients no longer want paper-based statements, delayed, out-of-date information. They want real-time, contextually relevant information using the tools and solutions that they have access to. So example being, they don't want to necessarily log into a portal to get a statement. They want to be able to go into WhatsApp and connect to their wealth manager and go, what is my balance? Can you make a payment? Can you make an instruction? They want to be in their context, interacting with the wealth management firm on their terms. They want to, the next one is kind of decreasing the cost of advice. There's lots of competitors in wealth management now. There's lots of competitors that are going to eat into the margins available in this space. So one thing you ought to be conscious AI can help here is in driving down the cost of that advice, so helping the relationship manager when it comes to things like recommending products for clients, when it comes to things like discussing and taking on board all of the various endpoints and the data they have and coming up with recommendations that will be most relevant to that client, not just taking a risk score and a time horizon, but taking a risk score, time horizon, ESG, salary, location, and what other people in that kind of grouping of people are interested in. So that when they're going to sit down with their client, they should know that they're going to be very, very interested in what they're going to be talking about. So there's more chance of that getting converted into an actual opportunity. The next one is kind of open AI, and they talked about it in the panel as well. This is all about opening up that ecosystem of data that you have. So long gone are the days now, hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, of kind of monolithic systems. One system doing everything for you. That is kind of a thing that is hopefully going away. You're now getting more best of breed using open architecture, APIs, microservices to give your clients and your users of your software the best experience possible. And we've got their unattained efficiency, just to create more efficiency through that process. So choosing best of breed, integrating them in real time together to give you the most efficient solution possible. And then we have data insights, competitive advantage, insights in data. The panel, again, discussed it at length, I believe. There's all this data now. There's more data out there than you could possibly imagine. There are people out there who can provide you data, can analyze your data, can send it through to you. But what do you do with it? You have as wealth managers and banking institutions, you have so much data on your clients. What do you do with all that data? How do you get insight from all of that data? You can't have, I think as I mentioned, you can't have 100 people churning through ESG data to give you the insights you need. You need to use AI, you need to use automation, you need to use robotics to get insights from that data. And then this then powers the shifting client expectations and the decreasing cost of advice and the wealth management productivity. Without all that data, it's very, very hard to give the clients the expectation they want, the experience they need, they want to keep them engaged in those digital experiences. It's really, really hard to give relationship managers more efficiency in their tools if you don't have the data to power those AIs that are going to support them. So what I'm going to talk about now is how AIs can help support these kind of main four areas. And then you can see there are other areas in there, kind of goals-based advice. Again, you can use AI to help with goals-based advice. But these four are the kind of the main areas I want to discuss today. And this is, I think, very, very critical as well when you're talking about AI. It's the human touch. We've all been there when you've been on an automated phone call or on a chat bot and you get sent around in circles because they don't know what you're trying to ask it. They don't understand everything. They haven't been taught everything. And you need to get that point, that sweet spot between AI assisting and augmenting the human rather than replacing it. And I think as the panel discussed there, I do not believe personally either that AI will replace the wealth management or will replace roles in wealth management, but it will augment them and make them more efficient, which allows them to go after more clients. So this is kind of going after the mass affluent space as well, as was mentioned in the panel. And that is really hard to see, so I'm quite disappointed about that. Apologies. But this is a simple, very, very simple UI. This is an Avalock web banking product and application. And what you have on here are multiple AIs. And by looking at it, you wouldn't realize that because they are embedded into the experience. They're embedded into the context that the client expects. And they are making sure that what the client sees is relevant to them. Historically, this would have been done by old school CMS systems where you would have had maybe been able to chunk up your client base into various segments. And then if you are this type of person, you'll get this experience. If you're this type of person, you get this experience. If you get this type of person, you get this experience. Now with AI, you can make sure that the experience each individual investor gets is personalized to them, is relevant to them, is contextualized to them, is hyper-personalized to them to keep them engaged in the digital experience that you're offering them. So at the very top, you have a AI that has identified that a client spent a little bit of time on the page and maybe looking for something that they can't find. So this is all about an AI being aware of the client's interactions with it and helping the investor get to the decision they're looking for. You have what's new. In here, you have 3 AIs. These AIs are churning through the data that you have access to for ESG, for news and insights, and for products to pull out those bits of information that are relevant for that client. So again, hyper-personalizing the information that they see to that individual investor. And this is kind of what Facebook does. It goes through all the information it has access to and presents it to the user for them to interact with. And because this is AI, not old school CMS, based on how the client interacts with that, it will learn. It will learn that that person doesn't necessarily like that particular stock or like that particular asset class or like that particular bit of market news from that particular vendor provider. And therefore, it will make sure that the information it sends through to that user is relevant to them. Again, hyper-personalization. Next, again, we have another simple experience. And this is the Avalock Wealth platform. So this is Angular Google Material Design. It's been designed to be simple, to be used by the context of the relationship manager. What you have here is simple kind of an AI that allows, so I'm not quite sure what's happening. I'm not pressing anything and it's moving. Thank you. I'm just going to put that down rather than hold it in my hand because it keeps doing something so weird. So what you have here is a recommending tool. So what this is doing is looking at all the data that we hold on that particular client. So it's looking at the assets they hold, the transactions they've done, their kind of age, their salary, their nationality, where they're located, where their investment's located, taking all of that data and coming up with a recommendation that the advisor can then take to that client. And it's presenting it in a very simple way. It's got a match score, which is very similar to what Netflix does good. Based on the data we hold about you, this asset here is a 98% match for what you like to invest in, what you're interested in, what's relevant to you. And then you have the little rationale next to it, which explains to the advisor how we've come up with that decision. And that is quite powerful, because what this is doing is going through all of the data that you have access to and coming up with things that the client would be interested in. So you can then go and take this to the client in confidence that they would be interested in it, without having to go through fact sheets or go through all the data yourselves. A machine has gone through all that data and decided that these are the most relevant products for that client. And you can see here we've done it on kind of asset class. We've got equities, funds, ETF, bond structured products. That can be done on anything. It can be done on product types, ISAs, bonds, PEPs, whatever. You can use it to recommend investment products to your client. And then there's a little video which just shows the rationale. So you've got equity region, net worth, trade history. You've got the top 5 it shows there. There's another 2 on the next page which are less relevant. So it's very, in a very, very simple way, explaining and displaying to the client what would be of interest to the investor. And then you can take that to the investor and have a conversation with them about that in confidence that these are things that they would be interested in. Obviously, all taking into account all the risk rating, et cetera, et cetera. And then this is another simple UI UX, but it has 4, 5 AIs embedded into it. You have a user behavior AI that understands who is accessing the application and what they're doing and how they're using it to kind of get insight on how, in this case, your relationship manager is communicating with your clients. It has a chat application here. So what this is doing, this connects to this is the Avalock Engage product, and this collects through to the end client's WhatsApp. So you can have a secure 2-way communication, the relationship manager on an internal compliant device, the client on their native WhatsApp or Weibo or Facebook Messenger or whatever it is that they want to use. And what it's doing is taking that chat and analysing that chat, and then taking from that chat some actions. So you can see there you've got Thomas Anderson has requested his share balance. Jordan Smith requested a share statement. So it's taking that chat, analysing all that chat on your behalf, using natural language processing to come up with next best actions to augment the relationship manager. So the relationship manager simply clicks on that and it loads up the statement to send through to the client via their chosen channel of choice. You have recommendations here. So a client may have messaged you saying, I have come into £10,000 of cash, £100,000 of cash, whatever the value is. I'm looking for investments. It can then take that chat, realise that the client has money to invest, use the recommender from the previous screen to come up with what are likely recommendations that they would be interested in, display them to the relationship manager for them to ready to send through to that client. And then at the bottom, you have the relevant news again. So again, this shows all the news that's collated by either external sources, so your news feeds, or your internally curated CIO content. So you may be launching new structured products, new funds, new cryptocurrency products. You click on that news article, it shows you the list of clients that might be interested in it. It allows you to share that with your clients based on their channel of choice. Again, that is all using AI. There isn't a human being behind this tagging these news articles and telling you which ones are relevant to your clients. And AI does that automatically in near real time, so instantaneously have all this information at your fingertips. And I've got a minute left, so on to the summary. AI augments the wealth management value chain. It doesn't replace the relationship manager. We all know that wealth management is based around money, and money is an emotive topic. And you never, I personally, I mean, other people in the room may be different, I personally never going to trust large amounts of money to a machine only. I want to have a conversation with a person to understand what it is really I'm investing in. And AI at this moment in time cannot give you that level of clarity just yet. So what it's doing is augmenting that experience. AI needs data, servicing platform, and visualization tool. AI uses huge amounts of data. You have lots of data. There's lots more data out there. ESG is going to bring in even more data that you need to analyze. So it needs data. You then need a platform or a solution to ingest that data, to understand it, and create models off the back of it. And then you need a tool to visualize that through to your end investor. Otherwise, what is the value of it, unless you're kind of driving the revenues out of it? Or increasing client engagement or increasing client experience. You need to have an output of it. AI can be used to meet market trends. So the 4 that I mentioned, they're kind of the client expectations, the digital first, digital native generations. They want everything at their fingertips. You have your relationship manager who needs to be more efficient, needs to look after more clients. You have open API, and you have huge amounts of data. AI can be used to help in all of those areas, plus the other 4 or 5 that were on that screen as well. And I think the important one here is it will not replace the human touch. You're always going to want to, again, that's my personal point of view here, other people may be different, want to speak to someone when you're talking about money. It's very emotive, it's your money. You spent hours and hours earning that money. Would you trust the entirety of that investment to a machine? Or would you want to speak to someone to ensure you fully understood what you're getting into? So that's why we think it will not replace a human touch. And then finally, just thank you for your time. 20 minutes has gone by in the blink of an eye. I feel there is so much more about AI than we can cover in 20 minutes. And I just want to say thank you for your time. We are on the first stand as you walk through the door. If you've got any questions on AI, please come across and see me. Any questions about the products we have that are servicing this space or how we see this space, I look forward to having a conversation with people. Hopefully you found that useful. Thank you.